GFL is here because of the concerns that the citizens have for our trash pickup and hauling. We met with GFL, myself, the mayor, and deputy city administrator, and our DPW staff met with GFL last week, and we went over some of the issues that we are being asked about, and they are here tonight to address those particular issues. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm here with GFL. My name is Sam Caramagno, District Manager for GFL, and with me tonight I've got Don Beretta, Jim Hess with us as well tonight. They are also with GFL, and we have a PowerPoint for you, a presentation. I'm just waiting for it to load up here. But the gist of this is we've experienced some service problems in the town, and they were brought to our attention, and we had a meeting, as Councilman Brightwell said, at the DPW to start to address these issues. Those issues were or are three main areas of concern: customer service, route management, and brush chipping. Now, in those areas, the customer service issues that we heard about were can placement. In other words, when we're done picking up the trash, leaving the can in the street or in front of a mailbox, or in some cases in front of a driveway. So that's one of the customer service issues. The other was trash spilled on roadways or the lawn after collection, maybe falling out of the truck, or maybe it was on the grass when we got to the material. There was also an issue of simple recycling. Obviously, you participate in simple recycling where folks can put their clothing and whatnot in these bags on trash day near the curb. Some cases, those bags were picked up along with the trash. Inconsistent collection times was an item that was mentioned as well, and of course, zigzagging trucks blocking the roadway during collection. So to address these issues, we're going to have weekly meetings with the employees, and when we say employees, right down to the drivers and helpers that are in the back of the truck, and the route manager who patrols the areas and expected to provide satisfactory results. These meetings will happen in the morning prior to the trucks being dispatched out to the routes, and you can have all the meetings you want. We can have all the meetings you want. If we don't get out there and patrol what's happening with our crews on the road, then we can't ensure that it's being done. So the route manager is to begin to check more frequently on the crews, being out on the road, up and down each street, looking for quality issues and making sure that the job is being done. After we're done, it should look clean, it should look nice, cans should be out of the road. The manager needs to be more engaged and get involved more with that. That's a conversation we're going to have as well. Our employees may not be fully aware of the simple recycling program that happens. Again, this is part of the training. We're going to make sure that they're aware of these bags and to leave them behind. Under no circumstances should they be placed in a garbage truck or a recycle truck for that matter. Collection times, that is a little bit different type of a scenario. We know that the weather recently broke in May, a month ago, and when it broke well. It really came around. A lot of rain, a lot of nice weather, a lot of heat. So when you talk about collection times being a variable, trucks simply don't make it as far when there's a lot more material on the street. So the collection time changes a little bit. We're going to reinforce the starting areas on each route, be it a trash, a recycle, a yard waste collection. We're going to reinforce those collection areas in which we start. Maybe we start in each of the corners of the city and work toward the middle. That needs to be consistent. That way people generally have an idea when their trash is going to be collected. We can't necessarily give you a time, but generally if it's morning, it should be morning, afternoon should be afternoon, early evening should be early evening in most cases. Times will vary, but that should be the case. With it being said, we've seen a dramatic increase in yard waste at the curb, therefore tonnage in which we've collected. This year, there's been a 40% increase in yard waste volume this year over last. That's directly related to the rain and the heat we've had in the month of May. A recent news article was out referencing that, and one of the news agencies talked about this being the third or fourth hottest and wettest May of all time in Metro Detroit, and we're seeing the implications of that on the street. It's making things a little more difficult for us. Zigzagging is a means of back and forth down the street. Did you lose me? No. Zigzagging is a means of back and forth down the street. We need to prohibit that. That is gotten out of hand, and what that does is that blocks traffic and creates a little nuisance. Cars are backing up trying to get around us. The only place zigzagging or double siding should be really used is on the dead end where we don't have the means of pulling one side in and one side out. So that's another thing that we're working on. As I said earlier, all of these issues are to be managed on the street by our route manager, who is out there on the road in a pickup truck, company pickup truck, running around. So he has to manage these items at a much greater level to ensure for a quality service. So that is something we're asking him to do as well. This will take just a little bit of time to get these things straightened out. But these are things that have slipped. They've slipped. We've heard. I heard from a handful of residents here tonight myself personally. These items have slipped. We need to straighten this thing back up and get it going in a good direction. Our route manager does talk with the DPW. Through our meeting, we talked about a better and more consistent conversation as well. There should be email communication about problems we've got, issues with areas maybe we cannot service for one reason or the other. But there needs to be documented conversation through email regarding any trouble we may have out there. That way we can always reference it either side. It's not a you said, didn't say. There'll be documentation for that. The other thing we have is I mentioned the seasonal volumes a minute ago, but we do have seasonality with brush chipping as well. We all know brush chipping, it runs basically from the middle of April through the end of November. And then from November through middle of April, there's really no activity, no collection activity. There is activity because the branches fall out of the trees, the line clearing crews go out and drop limbs in the yard, and they pretty much sit there until the weather changes. Okay, when the weather changes, a lot of that material, all of it for that matter, is brought to the curb. When it's brought to the curb, it's quite a task. You know, you've got about 3,500 homes to be collected each day in the town, each day of the week, and as a result, that impact of all that brush coming out the curb creates quite a task. We service that. We've serviced it for a number of years now, and it takes time. It takes time to get through that brush and get it cleaned up. Once it's cleaned up, it's a matter of maintaining. So we email the city every day on the number of chippers that we put out, 2, 3, 4 chippers or garbage trucks to support that to collect the brush. That is being done now to notify and make everyone aware and put everyone on the same page of what to expect. Of course, there's preparation issues. We have to deal with that and tag those items as they're put out at the curb and not prepared correctly. It makes for a lot of wasted time, and sometimes you have to pass those stops up. But that is basically what we talked about and what we're going to do. The conversation just happened last week, and believe us, there will be an intense conversation about these quality issues to bring it back up to speed where it needs to be. I'd like to take any questions you might have.
Council? Well, Mr. Frazier.
Yeah. Do you have enough employees and enough trucks in order to do the job the way it should be done?
Yes, we do. We do have enough equipment. We have enough employees. I will tell you that drivers, if this message gets out there, drivers at a premium across the country. Do we have the drivers? Yes, we've got the drivers. Could we use more? Yes, we could use more. But we're not, it doesn't mean we're not hiring. We're not actively interviewing all day long and processing drivers. We are. We could use more, yes.
Well, the reason I say that is, it seems like some of the items that you brought up, some of the concerns that you brought up, for instance, after you stop picking up the limbs and stuff in November, at the end of November, then you don't pick them up again until the beginning of April, that a large number of limbs are out there, which is a problem. Well, it's been the situation right along, even before GFL, but we haven't had the concern in the community that we have now. For some reason, it's not being handled as it was being handled. So I don't know what your route manager has been doing, but these complaints have been coming to us for a long time, not just in the last week or not just this season. They've been in a problem. In the beginning, I felt that it was sort of like not a grievance, but agony over losing a friend, because Waste Management had been our trash collector for such a long time. When someone new comes in, everybody, or a lot of people, bemoan the fact that we don't have the one that we used to have. Now we have somebody different, and if there's any difference, there's a complaint. Oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that like they used to. So I took that with a grain of salt, tried to get it corrected, but it is a real problem. It's happened at my house. I've had the trash picked up, the recycling picked up. When I went out to get the bin, there's stuff under the bin. They turned the bin upside down. Stuff that was in the bin is on the grass. I got to pick it up, take it. It happened more than once. Just this week, neighbor down the street, when I left in the afternoon after the recycler had been picked up, there were a bunch of collapsed cardboard boxes. It must have been 10 or 15 laying by his mailbox, kind of spread out. It was on the grass. These are just the ones that I've heard recently. Today I talked with one of the residents in Southfield, and they were saying that he's had his trash container, that has a lid on it, broken off. The lid was broken off. When he came home, the container was one place, the lid was someplace else. So there's a lot more, I think there's a lot more problems than maybe even you understand. So I don't know what your route manager is doing, but he or she needs to follow closely behind every day for a while and correct what's going on so that we have the kind of service that was promised when the contract was signed. And I'm not angry at you as an individual. I'm upset because what we thought we were getting in the contract, we're not getting. And we need to get what was promised in the contract. I don't know how you do it. And I do care how you do it because I want you to be efficient in doing it, but it needs to be done. And I'm only speaking for myself. I don't know if the other 6 council members have anything to say or not, but I have heard a lot of complaints about the kind of things that I've talked about. So the faster you get it fixed, the better life in Southfield will be.
Oh, there'll be meetings. These are quality of service issues. Every one of them, whether it's the trash on the ground, the can in the driveway, the can in front of the mailbox, the zigzag. These are quality of service issues, and these are issues we're going to take very, very seriously. We already have through our meeting with the DPW folks last week, and this will be addressed and consistently addressed. And I'm a district manager for GFL. Jim is also a district manager for GFL. You can be assured that we'll be out on the road as well, overlooking and seeing the quality in which our route manager is performing in the city. And again, it can't be just a meeting to tell the drivers what we want, ask them what we want. It can't be just a meeting with the route manager telling him, here's what we need. It's got to go deeper than that, and we need to be out there as well, making sure that we're seeing and getting what we want.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes, just real quickly, do you have cameras in your trucks?
We do not have cameras. We have tracking devices, GPS tracking, but no cameras on the truck.
Or any way to gauge the speed of the trucks and how fast they're going, or
We can see that, yes.
you can't see that stuff?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
And you all
quite
monitor-
often, I'm sorry.
I was saying you all monitor that?
We do look at it. We can look at that. We don't sit in front of the tablet all day and watch it, but if there is or when there is an issue, one of the most important things we can get is kind of a time and a truck number. If someone sees something doesn't look right or is wrong, time and a truck number, we can then go back and look exactly what happened, where, what, why, and address that issue.
Okay, and just based on everything that you said you guys are going to work on from this point moving forward, I guess, how do you assess that? I mean, what kind of metrics do you use to come back and say, from last month, we've done this better than last time?
One of the things we can do is we can look at our call volume that comes in. We can talk with the DPW and find out their call volume related to complaints that are coming in and see there. This would be a visual thing. I will make the commitment that like I said a few minutes ago, I will be on the street in Southfield just looking around and seeing what I see as well. If I don't like it, or Jim doesn't like it, then it's going to change. But there are the calls coming in are measurable, and we can see whether that's going up or going down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Morris?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of calls as well. Just over a consistent amount of time, I've had that situation at my home as well, where on more than one occasion, not so much the trash not being picked up, but the recycling bin, the lid will be open, but it'll still be full. And I'm just wondering, I don't know how you're going to fix this, but do you know the percentage of employees that you have that may live in Southfield? I mean, maybe they may have more of an affinity to be concerned and care about our neighborhoods. Do you know how many people that work for you that live in Southfield?
I don't particularly know the number. It's a good question. And obviously, where you work, where you live, there's something to be said for that. I will agree with you there.
Can you find out?
Yes, we can find out.
All right, okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Fakasi?
Yeah. Wait for him.
Okay.
Jim. Sam, you've been taking care of Southfield all your life. And we started with commercial removal back in the old days, and hate to keep going back into history, but we've always had excellent service. The community has been served by those who we have had a contract with. And then, of course, we went with waste management, and then we went to Rizzo, and now we have, of course, a GFL. Is there something that is missing? You know, you've been in this business all your life, that you can check and make sure, because really, the way it is now, everybody in the city is getting upset over the way that GFL is doing the job. And is it the transition between Rizzo and GFL, is that a problem?
No, it really isn't. The transition between Rizzo to GFL was nothing more really than a name change and a painting of the trucks. The employees are generally the same. I will tell you that whatever is happening on the road is more directly attributed to the route manager and his performance of quality and what's happening. And again, as we said, we want to reassure to the employees what our expectations are, reassure to that route manager what we expect here, and that is a huge piece of the action.
Now, you used to have a real good manager, you know, driving around in a pickup truck right behind all the removals. And that has really worked because, you know, he's seen that the job has not been done or done, and they can address it. And I think that's what's really missing, is that really not addressing the job that the employees are doing on the streets. I want to make sure you do it right.
That's you're right on the money. I know the mayor spoke of that too. He mentioned the other day when we spoke to him that he doesn't see the pickup truck as often as he used to. The pickup truck, meaning the company pickup truck with the manager running around. So that I heard very, very loud and very, very clear the other day. And believe me, it's only been a few days since we heard that, and that's going to be addressed. That machine is also trackable as to where that pickup truck is at and how often it's running around these streets.
Mr. Mayor?
When we met last Wednesday, one of the things I had talked about was supervision, and you've just said it. I have not seen the supervision on the street. I am wondering, and I made this suggestion on Wednesday, that we have another supervisor out on the street. When I said that, I don't know if somebody was joking or not, but they said one's enough. I really think you need more supervision on the street, at least until we get these problems ironed out. It is so apparent that when the amount of trash that's left behind, that somebody's not monitoring what the drivers are doing. I understand that for the staff that picks up the trash, it can be pretty mindless, and a mistake could happen. But at the rate of occurrences of the mistakes, I really think you need more people on the street to make sure that the drivers are delivering the service that we're expecting.
Well, I heard that very clearly the other day. Again, it's an item that we are working on now to get resolved, and the effectiveness of the manager is a big piece of this, correcting this problem.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. Mandelbaum?
Yes. You mentioned earlier that the trucks have GPS tracking. So most of the complaints that I receive, and I received one today, is that an entire block is sometimes skipped over or missed. Is there a way that when those complaints come in that you check the GPS tracking? Is it possible they just drove straight through? So I guess two questions. Do you check the GPS tracking when someone says a whole street was missed? And does the GPS tracking, is it time stamped so you can see when they started a neighborhood or a street and then when they finished that street?
Yeah, yes, it is, and it is time stamped. You can see if they travel up and down each street. The problem with the GPS program is you can see the truck go up and down the street unless you dial it in real close. You can see that the truck passed the street and went back, but you can't necessarily see that he stopped 10, 15, 20, 30 times on the street without visually being out there and driving up and down each street. And again, this is all going back to what I've been talking about, the proper management from the route manager on the street. Again, these are things that are failures on our part. They are failures on our part to properly manage these crews to make these things happen. And we are committed to getting these things fixed.
Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes. So I agree with everything that the other council people are saying. We are concerned about the pickup and how we are being serviced. It's not being maintained the way Southfield is used to having things maintained. But my bigger question is, how are you going to really make that change? I hear what you're saying, but if you don't add people or put more people on the street to monitor what you're currently doing, or the training is not, you have to have on-site training. And I just don't, I hear what you're saying, but unless I see it, I don't really know how well that's going to go. So what I would like to do is ask all of our residents to continue doing what you're currently doing, and that is, we have to self-monitor. We have to make sure that we call the, when we have problems, when we have pictures. I know the young lady sent us pictures when garbage was on the street. We have to continue to do that so that we can ensure that what Mr., and I don't remember your last name, is promising us this will happen, and we have to make sure on our streets that it's being done. And if it's not, then we have a mechanism. We can call and say, okay, this is not happening on this street at this date and this time, so that we can make sure that we can now start receiving the services that we are promised or what we contracted to do. So I'm fair, and I like to give everybody a chance, and I believe you really are going to do what you're saying, but it's up to us to ensure that we'll make sure that if my garbage isn't picked up, I'm going to call and say, hey, it's 8 o'clock and the garbage still hasn't been picked up. What happened? When is it going to happen? I think we still have to continue that. So residents, we still have to continue to do that until we see the improvement. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cruz.
Yep, just one quick question. Do you have, for residents whose maybe trash cans have been damaged during the pickup, do you all do anything in terms of replacing or with those things, like wheels or tops or things have been broken off?
Yes, if a container gets damaged through our service, yes, it'll be repaired or replaced, yes.
Okay, because that has been a question that I've gotten from a few people too, and they have not gotten responses. So, and it may be something here today. So can they see you today?
They can see me today, yes.
Okay, and otherwise, just they can call?
They can call through their normal channel. They can call through GFL, call through the city, notify our route manager. This location is serviced out of our Sterling Heights facility, and that's what Jim manages. And the route manager, once he gets a hold of that, has a responsibility to resolve these complaints. If not, it can be elevated. You can bring it to my attention. You can bring it to Jim's attention. The residents can. We will resolve these issues.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Okay.
I would just like to say, as Ms. Taylor had said, that she understands what you've said and agrees that you're going to fix it. But what I'd like to do is, I would like to have another meeting, another follow-up meeting, perhaps in a month, because you're not going to fix it in a week. But I would think within a month, we ought to start seeing some improvements. So I'd like to have, if it's schedulable through the president, I'd like to have you come back and explain to us what you've done, what things are improving, and see if we're getting fewer calls.
I think that's a fair request. I think that's fair, and I think we'll be able to talk about some improvements in what we've done in this in a month, maybe middle of July or whatever works for you folks. I think that gives us a little time to straighten things out, and we'll be able to give you some feedback on what we've done, and we'll take some feedback as well on both good and bad.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fakasi.
No, Mr. Frazier asked the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since our last meeting last Wednesday with at DPW with Mr. Sears, I have a record of the number of calls coming into his office, the mayor's office, and our communication with our. That's my baseline, and and I will be following and tracking calls on a going forward basis. So that'll give me a trend of what's happening.
Yes.
And so that will obviously, I initiated that immediately after we had our meeting last Wednesday. The other thing, in doing the meeting, and this is, and I'm not sure whether or not it's doable, but I don't want to get into any proprietary secrets or anything, but whether or not you can share a route schedule with Mr. Searle's office so that when they're getting calls, the individual, someone there can let them know that a truck was due on that street today. I'm not sure whatever, I know I brought it up because it was, if there's a certain schedule, his office should be able to say it was scheduled for the day on that particular street. And I don't know how detailed that schedule might be. It could just be the street on Monday, or it could be the hours between 8 and 10. Is there anything you could share with his office, without getting into the, proprietary information or work, whatever is proprietary, so that his office can have some type of hands-on data or hands-on item to answer questions?
We can do that. Each day, obviously, is its own collection area. We can give the DPW officer, Larry, a general area where the trucks are starting, and that way they know as the day progresses, they move in toward one another
Sure.
and collect in that area.
Sure.
It's the consistency a lot of times in which we can start trucks that helps.
Right.
I mean, if you get picked up, or if I get picked up, my trash gets picked up at 8 o'clock in the morning, typically, and someday it doesn't come till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That is inconsistent service. That is a problem. It generates phone calls that are unnecessary. So, yes, we can do that. We'll provide that to Larry.
Okay, and we'll definitely adjust for anomalies and, things that might have a breakdown.
Seasonality,
yeah,
yes.
And those kind of things. Okay, the other thing, I brought it up about the zigzagging during our meeting, and I'm gonna just give you an anecdote. I'm a former veteran, and I worked with the Library of Congress, and I interviewed over 290 veterans from World War II coming forward to our most current conflicts. And one of the things that came up, and I'm gonna tell you, I thought about this when I saw your guys zigzagging, going up down my street. I didn't know what they were doing, but they were obviously jumping off and through. So during World War II, they had a lot of young pilots driving these $1 million machines, right? Bombers, big old giant bombers. So once they got on the way back to the base, they would, over the ocean, they would get as low to the ocean as possible, and they were just joyriding. The pilots with, 19, 20, 21-year-old young pilots, they were joyriding with the B bombers coming back to the base after they had dropped their load. That immediately popped in my head. You guys were out there joyriding during the morning and doing this zigzag. And so I know you indicated training will be a hot issue with you on a going forward basis. So we will be looking forward to that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we will.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, thank you. I think you have answered quite a few questions, and this issue has been a concern, and so thank you for your presentation.
Well, we're happy to come here. Not happy that that our service has dropped off, but we'll make an improvement and we'll get that better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thanks,
you.
Sam.
All right.
Thank you.